Welcome to the VSA Morning Miner on Friday the 13th of May. It's David Scriven and I'm with Paul Rankin. How are you today?
I'm very fine for Friday the 13th. Thanks very much.
It's quite a bright day and markets are favourable for a Friday the 13th. Good point. Let's kick off with Neo Metals and a cooperation agreement with Mercedes-Benz.
Yes, that's right. They've announced that their battery recycling joint venture, Primodius, has executed a cooperation agreement with Mercedes-Benz recycling subsidiary Licolar. And what that is to set up a battery recycling plant. That plant would probably be in Germany, fairly close to Mercedes-Benz plant activity. And it gets triggered essentially at the time when Mercedes-Benz sends Neometals a purchase order for 2,500 tons per annum of output from the battery recycling plant. So that's essentially the story that they've given us today.
Very interesting. I think a couple of names that are on people's focus list, and that is Sol Gold and Condor Gold. And Sol Gold have had Q3 results. They look like they've got a decent amount of cash, and Condor Gold seems to be getting construction ready and looking a little bit more materially de-risked.
Yes, that's right. Condor Gold on its Q3 results, more focusing on its or actually their first quarter results rather than Q3 for Condor. That's my mistake. But they're focusing on the nearly complete feasibility study now for the La India open pit in Nicaragua. That's a high-grade open pit, and they've decided in the feasibility study that they'll pull in two of the high-grade portions of two satellite pits as well as part of the overall study. They essentially have already cleared 14 hectares for the plant site facilities and mill and so forth, and the financing discussions are all underway at this particular point in time for the final capital needed to build the plant. But I don't have any doubts myself that given the grades that they've announced previously in the past couple of years, it will be a highly profitable operation if they can bring it to bear at this point in time. So we'll see how Condor Gold is as an operator or a mine developer as opposed to just an explorer.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. So perhaps a little bit of a sigh of relief maybe for Beowulf finally getting development consent on Calac.
Yes, that's taken years and years for Beowulf to get that consent, but now that they have in recent days, it's all about now the management getting formal consultations underway with the various parties that will be involved then with progressing the project toward final raise of capex and aligning up contractors and various service advisors like the legal team and so forth. And that's what they've commented on today in their release.
Indeed. And perhaps finishing up on just quickly on a couple of items and keeping to that African theme where our colleagues have been based. I see that Harmony announced yesterday results or production for the 9 months. Perhaps the key thing here is, despite the fact that it was down, they have, are they on track for annual guidance?
Well, for Harmony Gold, they are saying that they are on track for this particular period of time, and they would hope essentially that there aren't any more sorts of logistical delays that have been causing some issues for them on their global operations, like the Hidden Valley mine, as well as operational difficulties like failure of their overland conveyor there, for instance. So we'll see how they do, and they do need to have some improvement because their all-in sustaining costs have risen by 20% year over year. So their actual profit margins on production aren't very good in comparison to other companies at this point.
And finally, perhaps just to highlight that in the Central African copper belt, we're beginning to see majors sniffing around, BHP, First Quantum, and evidenced by a joint venture with Anglo American recently, I think highlighted with ARC. So I think this has something to do with President Hichilema of Zambia, who is wooing investors. And of course, one of the companies that hasn't been avoiding the area has and re-entering it, like the BHP, so to speak, and the First Quantums, is of course Glencore. But I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Well, yes, the Glencore has maintained its actions and activity throughout, with the waning and flowing of prices too. Like, for instance, they had curtailed zinc production, for instance, out of the area for a couple of years back when zinc and prices and inventories globally were poor. But now that's a whole different story at this point. So I'm just kind of wondering whether or not Glencore might be on the lookout for some acquisition here at this point.
Look out for that, and we'll wish everyone a very good weekend. All the best, and thank you, Paul.
Very good. We'll see you then.